Here we go. Chapter 6, The Return of Mr. Tabby. The hospital's lobby was big and empty. Cobwebs crisscrossed the high ceilings. A door marked Employees Only stood on one side. A door marked Identification Room stood on the other. Both were closed. An elevator waited. "Where'd Dr. Wu go?" Pearl asked, stepping over her box of jelly beans. "I don't know," Ben said. He picked up the other box, which had tumbled from his hands when he fell, and he set it on top of Pearl's. "Well, what do we do now?" Pearl said. She didn't want to do the wrong thing and get in trouble on the very first day. "Maybe we should wait," Ben said with a shrug. Pearl tapped her feet and popped some bubbles with her gum. Where had the doctor gone? It wasn't fun. First day of their apprenticeship was supposed to be fun. "I hate waiting," she grumbled. Takes forever." "It's only been a minute," Ben said. "Yeah, and a minute can be a very, 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 very long time." Pearl charged over to the identification room door and tried to push it open. "Locked," she reported. Then she unchecked the employee-only door. "This one's locked too." She started rapping her knuckles on the door. "Hello? Hello? Did you forget about us? Hello?" Ben pressed his ear to the employees-only door. "I don't hear anything," he said. Pearl knocked louder. "Hello? Why are the two of you making such a racket?" Both Pearl and Ben gasped, surprised by the voice that came from the other side of the lobby. They turned around. The identification room door had opened, and an odd-looking man stood in the doorway. A big grin spread across Pearl's face. "Hi, Mr. Tabby." Both she and Ben knew him. He had examined the dragon hatchling when they had brought him to the hospital. He had told them that it was called a wyvern, a special two-legged dragon that grew a barbed tail. He had also given them the Sasquatch catching kit so they could bring the hairy beast back to the hospital. Pearl thought Mr. Tabby looked kind of like a butler in his perfectly creased black pants, white shirt, plaid vest, and shiny black shoes. Long red hair was pulled into a ponytail, and a red mustache perched beneath his nose. But this was no ordinary mustache. It was waxed into sections, and it reminded Pearl of cat's whiskers. How much time did it take every day to do that, she thought. "Do those boxes contain kiwi-flavored jelly beans?" he asked Pearl and Ben. They both nodded. "I would find it most helpful if you would set them in the elevator." And once he had done this, the doors closed, carrying the boxes upward. The panel above the elevator lit up. Floor 1, 2, 3, 4. And it stopped. "What's on the 4th floor?" Pearl asked. "Is this where the fairies are?" Acting as if he hadn't heard the question, Mr. Tabby sniffed the air. "Do I detect the odor of a parakeet?" "Yes, indeed, I do. The known world variety, male." His half-moon irises expanded. "Do you own such a creature?" "Yes," Pearl said. His name is Lemonface." Yes, yes. Parakeets are delicious with mustard." Mr. Tabby said this as if it were normal to eat parakeets with mustard. Pearl frowned and made a mental note never ever to let Mr. Tabby around Lemonface. "I also detect the odor of fruit-flavored chewing gum. Gum is not allowed on the hospital grounds. Please dispose of it in the receptacle over there." And he pointed to a small trash can. Both Pearl and Ben spit their gum out. Then Ben shuffled in place. "So, where's Dr. Wu?" "Dr. Wu has been called away on an emergency, and therefore your first day as apprentices will fall on my shoulders. It is unfortunate timing, but we must make the best of it." Pearl didn't know Mr. Tabby very well, and from the short time that she had spent with him, she had come to the conclusion that he was always rather grumpy. What kind of teacher would he make? She opened her mouth to speak, and as she did, a low growl sounded in Mr. Tabby's throat. Will your question be of the bothersome variety? Pearl said, screwing up her face. She didn't have one question, she had many. And they weren't bothersome, they were really important. So despite Mr. Tabby's stern look, she went for it. What kind of emergency did Dr. Wu go on? Did she go to the imaginary world? Can we go with her? What kind of creature is sick? Can we meet it? Is it going to die? If we are her apprentices, then shouldn't we be with her? And isn't it our job? And perhaps you don't understand the definition of the word bothersome? Please choose one question. Ben stepped forward. What are we going to do today? Now that is a question that I can answer. Follow me. And he strode into the employees-only door. The last time Pearl and Ben saw Mr. Tabby, a tail had slid out from the bottom part of his vest. Pearl watched carefully for a hint of the furry appendage, but nothing appeared. She thought about asking if his tail had changed, but then she decided not to. That was probably considered bothersome. Mr. Tabby placed his hand on the door, his long fingers spread wide. The door hummed and then opened. It must have read his fingerprints, Ben whispered to Pearl as they followed Mr. Tabby through the doorway. My dad has a security system at his office that reads fingerprints. Cool. The door closed behind them, and they stood in a hallway. It looked like a regular, boring old hallway that could have been in a regular, boring old building. But this was a hospital for imaginary creatures. This hallway should look different. Disappointment settled over Pearl like a wet blanket. Where was all the magic? The wonder? Where were the fairies? And their dust. Pay close attention, Mr. Tabby said, and he stood in front of a bulletin board. One side of the board was labeled off duty, and the other side was labeled on duty. Mr. Tabby removed 2 cards from the off-duty side. One card had Pearl's name written on it, and the other, Ben's. The remaining card belonged to somebody named Vinny. These are your time cards. You will clock in when you arrive and clock out when you leave. He took Pearl's card and slid it into the clock that hung next to the bulletin board. A click sounded. The day's date and the time were now printed at the top of the card. He slid Ben's into the slot and the same thing happened. And then he pinned each card to the on-duty side of the board, next to one labeled Mr. Tabby and another labeled Violet. Who are Vinny and Violet? Pearl asked. Vinny and Violet work for Dr. Wu, and that is all that you need to know. Mr. Tabby straightened the time cards so that they were perfectly parallel. It is extremely important that you clock in and out. That is the best way for us to keep track of you. The previous apprentice always forgot to use the time clock and... He paused. Well, we lost her. What do you mean you lost her? Ben asked. Mr. Tabby's upper lip rose in a slight sneer. Well, because she neglected to clock in and clock out. We do not know if she disappeared in the known world or the imaginary world. Disappeared? A shiver ran down Pearl's spine.